Firefighter that heard Princess Diana's last words finally breaks silence. It was a terrible mishap. After the horrific collision in August 1997, what remained of the black Mercedes lay outside the Pont de l'Alma tunnel in Paris. Xavier Gourmelon, a French fireman, was among the first to arrive at the site early that awful Saturday morning and promptly began to work rescuing the victims. However, Gourmelon and his crew had no notion who the true victims were. He observed that the blonde lady was still alive when he pulled her out of the smashed automobile. Her lips twitched as she attempted to speak. Gourmelon, on the other hand, could hardly hear her, so he leaned in closer. That's when he realized the lady whose life he was attempting to save was unique. After almost 3 decades, Gourmelon finally admitted that he really believed Princess Diana would live. But it will be revealed after her untimely death that he'd been the recipient of her last words. Engagement rumors. In any event, as the summer of 1997 drew to a conclusion, opinions diverged on the strength of Diana and Dodi's relationship. According to Vanity Fair, Dodi planned to buy the princess a ring. The princess, on the other hand, had informed her close friend, Rosa Monckton, that she planned to wear the ring on a finger on her right hand. Diana, according to Monckton, just wanted to make Khan jealous. Dodi's father, on the other hand, was certain that the ring was intended to commemorate the couple's engagement. Just after midnight, they all piled into the vehicle, and Paul took off down the road. However, the paparazzi had become aware of the plot and started aggressively tailing the limo. Reese Jones was sitting in front of Paul. A later investigation revealed that the paparazzi had attempted to block the car in an effort to get Paul to slow down after he had previously provoked them outside the hotel. Rather, the Mercedes continued on its voyage, reaching speeds of about 65 miles per hour when calamity struck. A sad fate. The limo kept blazing down the road. Paul lost control of the car 3 minutes after leaving the hotel, just as he was approaching the tunnel under Pont d'Alma. Because there were no photographers around at the time who may have been accused of the tragedy, the inquiry would eventually blame Paul. He was not only driving with so much alcohol in his blood that he was more than 3 times the legal limit, but he was also under the influence of prescription medicines. The tragic crash. The truck collided with the tunnel's wall, swung left, and slammed into one of the roof's pillars with significant force. Paul was killed on the spot in a horrific and tragic collision. The paparazzi, who had been after the vehicle on motorcycles, arrived at the scene as the crushed wreckage of the black limo lay in the tunnel. However, they made no attempt to assist the injured passengers, preferring instead to shoot the debris. Thankfully, someone ultimately called for emergency help, and a crew of firemen rushed out from the nearby Millar station. Rescuers arrive. Gourmelon, the duty officer on that fateful night, led the valiant firemen. Now, 20 years after meeting the victims, he's disclosed to the Sun what he and his colleagues uncovered. Gourmelon recalled the collision involving the world's most famous couple at the time, saying, "The car was in a mess, and we just had to deal with it like any other road accident. We set right to work determining who required assistance and who was still alive." Helping the victims. The horrible collision Gourmelon watched was nothing new to him as a seasoned fireman, and he did what he knew best: evaluate the situation and give assistance. For me, this was just another routine traffic accident, one of many that emergency services have to deal with, and it had the usual causes: speed and a drunk driver, Gourmelon said. He also realized right away that there was nothing he could do to help Paul. Gourmelon told the Sun, "When I got to the car, I could see the driver was already dead, and there was nothing that could be done for him." Hope. Unfortunately, Dodi's destiny in the limo's rear seat was not much better. He experienced a heart attack while still inside. Gourmelon had seen similar tragedies before, and Dodi's position was not looking good. He did not survive the hit and died soon thereafter. The paramedics called his time of death when he was evacuated from the car, but there was hope for bodyguard Reese Jones. Despite having been seriously hurt, including numerous significant facial injuries, he was able to heal. The princess's bodyguard. Despite the fact that he was in grave danger, Rhys Jones' primary worry was clearly Diana. In a panic, he constantly requested the princess. He kept asking for the princess, saying, "Where is she?" Gore Malone remembered. "Where is she gone?" However, my team advised him to remain calm and silent. I informed him that none of my guys knew English, so he should stay put and not move. I told him not to worry because we were taking care of everyone, he continued. This suggestion might have saved Rhys Jones's life, since he would be the sole survivor despite his terrible injuries, including shattering every bone in his face, which required surgeons to use family images as references to recreate his looks with 150 titanium plates and 10 days in a coma. He released The Bodyguard's Story, Diana, The Crash, and the Sole Survivor in 2000, and was later embroiled in litigation with Dodie's father, whom he claimed placed intense pressure on him to recall the events of that tragic night. Diana Spencer. Meanwhile, Gore Malone looked after Diana, but he had no clue who she was and just knew her as the mysterious blonde woman. The princess was on the floor of the car's rear seat. She was awake and her eyes were open, so the heroic fireman believed she would be okay. Diana was also said to be able to make little motions. Despite her condition, critical seconds were passing away and she needed to be sent to a hospital right away. The Princess of Wales. Diana clasped Gore Malone's hand as he prepared to take her out of the vehicle, and he gave her air. He had no clue he was really attending to the Princess of Wales the whole time. He then disclosed this in an interview with the publication. "It wasn't until she was in the ambulance that one of the paramedics told me it was Princess Diana," he told The Sun. Furthermore, the fireman revealed the terrifying remarks she whispered to him that night. The words. While Gore Malone was tending to the princess and making certain she didn't suffer any more injury, she said some things to him that may have been the final words she ever said. "My God, what's happened?" she allegedly murmured to the guy who had saved her, apparently in amazement at the destroyed automobile. And although Gore Malone did not reveal if he ever responded to the princess, he did discuss what happened to her next. Saving a life. Diana was in excellent hands with Gore Malone and the rest of the first responders as they worked valiantly to rescue her and Rhys Jones following their experience. But given the circumstances, there was only so much they could do. "I gave Diana some oxygen, and my team and I stayed by her side as she was taken out of the car," Gore Malone added. "It was quite fast since we didn't have to cut any of the debris. Unfortunately, she suffered a heart attack while being carried on a stretcher." Cardiac arrest. Diana, who was seated in the right back passenger seat at the time of the incident, was said to have suffered no evident major injuries. But the princess's horror was far from over. When she fell into cardiac arrest about 1 a.m., Gore Malone rushed to her rescue. "It looked like it would work at first. I massaged her heart," he recalled in an interview, "and a few seconds later she started breathing again. Of course, it was a relief because as a first responder you want to save lives, and that's what I believed I had done." No visible major injury. Gore Malone was certain Diana would be all right once her heart began to beat again, and he had reason to believe so. First and foremost, despite the severity of the incident, there was no blood on her. Furthermore, it looked like she just had a small injury to her right shoulder, which was all the firemen could see. Then Gore Malone and his colleagues may have believed they had successfully shielded Diana from further harm, but they had no idea the worst was still to come for her. It appeared she would live. When Diana was being loaded into the rescue vehicle, hopes were high. She looked to be in good health and was on her way to Petit-Salpêtrie Hospital. Gore Malone believed the princess had an excellent chance of surviving. "To be honest," he told The Sun, "I thought she would live." But it would be hours after the horrific collision and Diana's transfer to the hospital that he would learn news that not only would stun him but also upset the whole globe. Hospital care. The ambulance arrived at the hospital just after 2 a.m., and Diana was promptly taken into surgery. The doctors struggled against the clock to keep the princess alive. She had to be resurrected multiple times before they realized their attempts were fruitless. Diana, Princess of Wales, died as a result of her injuries. Among her injuries was a burst blood vessel near her heart. The harm was subtle yet significant. Unfortunately, Gormalone's night was far from over. Princess Diana is dead. Gormalone returned to the fire station after Diana was taken to the hospital. He was working a double weekend shift and remembered calling his wife right afterwards to inform her of what had transpired that night. "My wife was asleep when I told her about the accident and Princess Diana," the chief fireman said. "I said that she had gone into cardiac arrest, but that I had managed to resuscitate her. Unfortunately, the princess died at roughly 4 a.m.